Let's not start with the dazzling debut or the record-breaking sales. Let's start with the silent. May 2022. SSERAFIM's Fearless was dominating charts, but the online forums were buzzing with a different, darker tune. Just days into their promotion, anonymous posts began to surface, accusing the youngest face in the group, Kim Garam, of being a school violence perpetrator. It wasn't just casual gossip. It was detailed, it was specific, and it spread like wildfire. Netizens dug up what they claimed was a 2021 School Violence Committee verdict document from her middle school, alleging she was involved in bullying and even underage drinking. The contrast was jarring. Here was HYBE and Source Music's shiny new Fearless girl group, built on a narrative of strength and elegance, now with a member at the center of a classic toxic K-pop scandal. Fans were immediately polarized. Fear Nots, the group's fandom, rushed to defend her, calling the allegations malicious rumors from aunties trying to sabotage a successful debut. But the court of public opinion was in session, and the evidence, whether fully verified or not, felt overwhelming to the neutral observer. The companies initially responded with a stance of defiant protection. Source Music issued a statement saying they would take legal action against the spread of false information, firmly standing by Garam. But this wasn't dying down. Brands started to get nervous. Garam was notably absent from some group promotional materials, a quiet but telling sign that behind the scenes, crisis management was in full panicked swing. The industry machine kicked into a familiar brutal gear. Korean public sentiment regarding school bullying is absolutely unforgiving. A proven accusation is often a career ender. The pressure mounted with every passing day. Then came the leaks. More documents, more alleged victim statements. The narrative was spiraling out of HYBE's control. For 7 weeks, SSERAFIM performed as 6, but the shadow was undeniable. Every stage view count had a parallel thread of malicious comments. The group's promising momentum was being hijacked by a single, all-consuming controversy. It was a textbook test of HYBE's much-touted PR power. Could they shield her? Should they? The answer came on July 20th, 2022. Source Music announced Kim Garam's contract had been terminated. The official reason cited protecting the artist, but the subtext was clear. The weight of the scandal was unsustainable. She was removed from the group's content, her parts in songs re-recorded, her presence digitally erased. It was a clean, surgical, and utterly ruthless cut. For fans, it was heartbreaking. For critics, it was an admission of guilt. For the 5 remaining members, it was a trauma that would forever shape their career. They didn't just lose a member. Their entire debut era was retrospectively stained. The Fearless concept now had a bitter, unintended layer. They had to become anti-fragile long before their next comeback was even conceived. But the controversy engine wasn't done. As SSERAFIM regrouped and stormed back with the historic success of Anti-Fragile, a new wave of whispers began. This time, it wasn't about personal past, but about artistic originality. In early 2023, sharp-eyed netizens and rival fan bases started drawing parallels. They claimed the Anti-Fragile choreography, specifically the iconic na-na-na-na-na hip-moving move, bore a striking resemblance to a routine by a lesser-known Filipino dance group. Clips were side-by-sided on TikTok and Twitter, sparking debates about inspiration versus imitation. The K-pop industry is notoriously competitive and protective over choreography, and accusations of plagiarism are a serious slight. Source Music stayed silent, letting the performance speak for itself, but the online discourse was another distraction, another battle for narrative control. It highlighted the intense scrutiny every aspect of a top group faces. Every move is dissected, every influence potentially weaponized by detractors. This was SSERAFIM living the anti-fragile mantra in real time, facing pressure and growing stronger, but not without first being bent by the force of public opinion. Then came Coachella 2024, their crowning global moment, which swiftly turned into their most intense public trial. The performance was historic, but the immediate aftermath was dominated not by praise for their stage presence, but by a brutal focus on their live vocals. Social media, particularly Twitter and TikTok, became a battleground. Clips of unstable notes, strained high tones, and moments where the backing track seemed to carry the weight circulated with viral speed. The phrase Coachella proved they can't sing trended. Critics and casual observers labeled them as purely performance-based, questioning the vocal prowess of the group altogether. The industry insight here is crucial. K-pop is built on an illusion of flawless, in-ear monitor perfection during music shows. Coachella's raw, live band sound and less forgiving audio mix stripped that away. It wasn't just SSERAFIM, it was an expose on the entire industry's prioritization of dance over live stability. But SSERAFIM, as the representatives on that massive stage, bore the full brunt. Fan wars erupted. Furnots argued about the challenging conditions, the choreography intensity, and pointed to stable moments. Anti-fans reveled in the perceived failure. The media coverage was split. split, some praising their charisma, others amplifying the criticism. This controversy cut to the core of their identity as artists. It was no longer about a member's past or a dance move's origin. It was about their fundamental skill. The group addressed it head-on in their documentary, showing them watching the criticism, talking about the pressure, and vowing to improve. It was a rare, meta moment where a controversy became part of their ongoing storyline of growth and resilience. Just as the Coachella vocal discussions began to simmer down, the K-pop industry was rocked by a much larger quake: the HYBE versus Min-Hee-jin ADOR feud in mid-2024. Les SSERAFIM, as HYBE's flagship girl group under Source Music, couldn't escape the fallout. The scandal involving accusations of a corporate coup, mind games, and shocking revelations about the manipulation of new jeans painted HYBE's corporate culture in a dark, dramatic light. Rumors began to swirl about how this internal turmoil affected all HYBE labels. Netizens speculated, was there pressure on Les SSERAFIM to outperform ADOR's groups? Were their creative directions influenced by this top-level corporate war? While not directly implicated, Les SSERAFIM found themselves in the shadow of a scandal that questioned the very integrity of their parent company. It added a layer of cynicism for some viewers. Their successes were now sometimes framed not just as artistic triumphs, but as strategic wins in a bloody corporate battle. This industry-wide scandal showed that for idols, controversy isn't always of their own making. Sometimes it trickles down from boardroom battles they have no part in, yet it shapes the environment in which they are judged. Through it all, the most persistent undercurrent of controversy has been about the concept itself and the members' pasts. Sakura and Chaewon's re-debut from IZ*ONE, while a huge advantage, also bred a specific resentment. A subset of netizens and fans of other groups labeled Les SSERAFIM as recycled idols, arguing they had an unfair head start that bypassed the traditional pure trainee struggle. This narrative conveniently ignored the immense pressure Sakura and Chaewon were under, having to prove themselves all over again while carrying the legacy of a legendary group. Then there was Kazuha's ballet background. Initially a brilliant, unique selling point, it later became a point of reductive critique, with some reducing her to just the ballerina, questioning her vocal and rap abilities outside that frame. Yoonjin, as an outspoken songwriter who often shared her thoughts on idol life, occasionally faced backlash for being too preachy or westernized in her perspective, a delicate tightrope female idols walk when they show too much individual thought. Yoonchae, the youngest, grew up in the spotlight, with every moment of normal teenage awkwardness or growth hyperanalyzed. The controversy for Les SSERAFIM has never been just one big explosion. It's been a constant, low-grade fever of scrutiny over their origins, their skills, their company, and their right to be where they are.